Today's lab will be exploring density and viscosity, and we'll be making a density column similar to the one here in this picture. This comes from a website, and so you can go to this website and look at the Great Density Rainbow and the Great Viscosity Race, and so you'll be following the steps of the procedure similar to here. There are 3 parts. The first part, you're making your density column, then you'll let it sit while you're doing the viscosity race. And at that point, you'll go back and check your column. The materials are here. We have corn syrup, alcohol, shampoo, vegetable oil, and strawberry syrup. You'll also need some food colors, but you want to be careful not to use the blue or the green. They tend to be so dark that it turns out black. As you can see here, we have about 30 milliliters of each of the materials, but you really only need about 10. We have a couple extra just so that you can see it very clearly. So if you'll notice, the strawberry syrup, the oil, and the shampoo already have colors, so you can distinguish between those whenever you pour them into the density column. But the alcohol and the corn syrup, those are too light to really tell the difference. So we're going to add a little food coloring. You only need about a drop or so to put it in there, and then you stir it up with the stirring stick so that it's well distributed throughout the liquid. We're going to add green to the alcohol, so in the end you'll know which one is the alcohol. And we're adding yellow to the corn syrup, but because of the fact that it's a deep yellow, it looks almost orange whenever you put it in the density column. Now what you want to do is predict by picking up each of the beakers. You want to predict which one you think is the most dense. The more dense liquid is going to drop to the bottom of the column, and then the least dense liquids will float to the top. Now it's okay if you end up pouring them into the column in the wrong order, because if you're patient, they'll rearrange themselves in order of density. So you'll take a graduated cylinder, and it's nice to use a graduated cylinder because it really allows the layers to be seen more carefully. So we're just going to pour them. If you'll notice, when we're pouring them in, you don't want to have the liquid running down the insides of the graduated cylinder. You want to try to get it to the middle as much as possible. As you're adding the different liquids, you can look to see how those liquids rearrange themselves. Sometimes they'll float on top, and sometimes they will rearrange themselves to be on the bottom. Because of the pouring process, sometimes the pouring process causes it to look mixed, but if you give it a little bit of time, then it will rearrange itself, like I said. See how the green initially wants to go towards the bottom near the red, but then it quickly rearranges itself. So the density column takes about 5 minutes or so to fully separate into the different parts. While you're doing that, you want to answer the questions in the lab so that you can make predictions with your partner or just with yourself. And so we'll come back and revisit this density column. It's pretty cool how the different layers are separating. The next part of the lab is a viscosity lab. And the viscosity is the thickness of a liquid. And so we're going to be testing the viscosity of 2 liquids, ketchup and chocolate syrup. Both delicious in my book, but we're going to be testing those. So you'll need a flat piece of paper. You want something relatively thick so that the materials don't just soak through onto the counter. So we're just going to put a dab of both ketchup and corn syrup onto the paper, about the size of a penny or maybe a nickel. You want to predict which one do you think is more dense and which one do you think has higher viscosity. Again, the viscosity is the thickness of the fluid, and we want to make a prediction that if we stand these 2 upright, who will win the race, ketchup or chocolate syrup. So we'll take the paper, and if you see that it's flat, it's just circles. But as you turn it upright, you'll notice that the chocolate syrup flows more freely, and so it's actually less viscous than the ketchup. Ketchup has a higher viscosity. So you record that as well as the answers to the questions on your worksheet. Now, if you were to wait a full 5 minutes, the density column that you created will look something like this. This is good. It has a good background. And you'll notice that each of the layers really do separate nicely into their particular densities. So the bottom layer is the yellowish orange layer. In this case, that's the corn syrup. So the corn syrup must be the most dense. Above the corn syrup is the strawberry syrup. And then you have kind of a clearish blue shampoo layer above that. And then above that is the oil, the vegetable oil. And on the very, very top is your alcohol, rubbing alcohol that you use at home, and that's in green. So be sure to record all your data. When you're finished, you want to, in the lab, you always want to clean your area. So we have brushes that we use to thoroughly clean all of our glassware, and you want to dry your glassware as well so that you don't leave any wet glassware around. Thank you very much.